Welcome to the Street.com TV. I'm Farnoosh Torabi. You're watching Wall Street Confidential. This is Jim Cramer, co-founder of our site. Yes. Hi, Jim. So, subprime blows up.
I had a very bad experience with subprime yesterday.
What was that?
Very bad experience.
Tell me about it.
I ordered the 24-ounce T-bone, which was choice, rather than the 8-ounce filet. I went for volume rather than prime. I went for subprime, and the gist was that it was clearly an inferior meal. Oh, by the way, subprime of the actual lending thing is completely meaningless. I am now saying that if every loan in 2006 that was subprime blew up, $500 billion, if they all blew up,
it
you would still not notice. I'd say that 2/3 of that mortgage paper was placed overseas. Germany's up 25%. Like, it's just a drop in the bucket. What do people think that this stuff is all being taken down by Bank of America? It has no relevance whatsoever. In fact, the actual CDO, the actual tranching of this stuff is the reason why there's no impact, because it's been divided and split among so many different entities that no one entity is really being hurt other than the dumb guy who ran Bear Stearns, who was smart before this, obviously. So, I mean, this is an issue that people want to really make just a gigantic hill out of what I think is a molehill. I want people to look at the accredited home lending takeover. I want them to look at just go read all the stuff is public. That was considered to be one of the 3 or 4 worst lenders in the country, okay? Worse than WMC from GE. Not as bad as New Century Financial, which had a lot of fraud, but maybe as bad as Novastar. I think Novastar is worse. All I want to do is encourage people to read it. I don't even want to draw conclusions from it anymore, because everybody has to get through this fear themselves. But the upshot of reading that document is that the worst lender in the country, really, arguably one of the 3 or 4 worst lenders, because they're all subprime, had about a 6% default. I'm saying, let's extrapolate. Let's take that to 100%. I still wouldn't be worried.
What are you seeing? I mean, you went through kind of a laundry list of things that you're seeing, but bottom line, what are people missing? I mean, is it that they're just following the Wall Street Journal headlines and they're getting misguided?
I've been doing a series of stocks that go to 80, go to 120. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, the problem with that is it sounds completely unrigorous and joking. Even though my team, Sankar Patel, we sat down and we looked at every stock that's going 100 in the last year to try to figure out when it went below 100. We couldn't find any other than 2 stock splits. Rigor and prudence dictate that they must write these stories. And like today was the story about how private equity is having problems placing loans. Mm-hmm. Well, that's completely untrue. You just raise the interest rate, the stuff sells. I think that what happens is that what kind of story is it to say that you know that of the 200 private equity deals, only 1 has failed? What kind of story is that? Why not focus on the one that has failed? Also, like the yen carry trade, it's really important for journalists to look like they are in the room with the big boys. So you talk about CDOs and you talk about subprime. It's a fascination with trying to prove that you know as much as the hedge fund managers. I have fallen, fortunately I was a hedge fund manager. Fortunately I've sold a lot of bonds. Fortunately I've owned this kind of bad paper and sold this kind of bad paper. And so I know that it's the lack of importance it has versus U.S. Treasuries versus even agency paper. But that's not a good story either. I think that if I were a journalist without any of the experience I had, I don't think I'd write about anything other than this.
All right.
And I would think, oh, that Cramer's such a joker. He ought to be with his nephew, Cliff Mason, when he starts talking about subprime. I want to point out that, by the way, he's my nephew. Dealbreaker.com, he's my nephew, and he's going to call me Uncle Jumbo in all videos.
I think it's a great idea.
Right? He should identify himself as my sister's firstborn. I think that's important to work into.
I think I'm somehow related to Cliff. I gotta be.
Absolutely. We want to probably what they call Chiron underneath, saying he is deeply related to Cramer.
The T-shirt's getting made.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he wouldn't get the job. He'd be a bum. He would just be a bum. I think he would not even. I think he'd be living at home watching a lot of TV and playing video games if it weren't for the fact that he is my nephew.
All right. That's Wall Street Confidential. Have a great weekend. I'm Farnoosh Torabi.